Welcome to the next episode of Let's Talk with Khris the podcast. I'm your host, Khristopher Gardner, and for our next episode, we have our guest is the Chief of Operations for the Montgomery Fire Department. Guest, can you introduce yourself?
My name is Eddie Gauntt. I'm the Chief of Operations for Montgomery Fire Rescue.
And so we'll get right into the questions. So for the very first question is, what does being the Chief of Operations mean on a day-to-day basis?
On a day-to-day basis, it means handling the daily operations of the fire department, specifically in our suppression division and our EMS division, which is our medical division. But on the day-to-day operations, I also handle any tasks that the fire chief deems necessary for the department to continue to run on a day-to-day basis, to include maintenance of our apparatus, maintenance of all the fire stations in the city of Montgomery, and then just manage our daily manpower that we staff our units with on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you. So our next question is, what's the most difficult decision you've had to make?
The most difficult decision I've had to make, I would say, was making sure that I'm living up to the standard that I set for myself, right? And that would be not going along with something to just go along with, right? A lot of times in positions like these, you run into situations where, you have to make ethical decisions. And you have to base those decisions based off your moral fiber and your character and what you stand for. So the decision I had to make then was to either stand up and not go along with something just because, or stand up for what I morally believe in. And I think I did make the right decision by standing on my own character.
So the next question is, how do you balance administrative duties with being ready for emergencies?
It's difficult at times because there's a lot of administrative duties that I have to do. We have right now 402 employees, so trying to manage all those administrative duties along with answering those emergency runs, because I never know when they're going to come in. So I have to always be ready. But so far it's been good. I actually enjoy the operational side of the department, which is answering those calls, so it's never a problem. And I've already made my family aware, and I know that my job is 24/7. So sometimes our regular work hours are from 7:30 to 4:30, but a lot of times it may take me going past that, which is understandable for me because I love what I do.
Thank you. So our next question is, what qualities do you believe are the most important for a strong fire service leader?
For a strong fire service leader is just having a strong ethical background. We hold a lot of people's hands. Well, we provide a service to the public, and you have to have a good moral fiber character about yourself. You have to be honest. You have to have that trait of being honest, and you have to have that trait of wanting to be a public servant. And on a day-to-day basis, we meet a lot of people. And being a leader in this fire department, I have to represent a lot of people, right? Whether it's race, religion, or sex, we have to represent a lot of people. You just have to be honest in everything you do. Try to be someone that likes to communicate and have some transparency about what you do. Because we serve a lot of different people, but you just have to be willing to serve everybody, which is being that public servant, having that servant leadership style.
Thank you. So our next question is, what are the most common types of calls Montgomery firefighters respond to?
Also, well, of course, we know structure fires. That's one of our big sides on our suppression division. But when it comes to our EMS calls, we answer anything: stroke, seizures, subject shot. I know there's a stigma about the city of Montgomery and some of the crime here, but we answer a lot of subject shot out there, but seizures, heart attacks. But the main focus is just a general medical. A lot of calls are not always a subject shot. It's not always a seizure. Sometimes it's just somebody has a cold, and we get a lot of that. Sometimes it's just somebody's blood pressure is elevated. Sometimes they may just be having an anxiety attack. Those are the calls nobody ever hear about, but those are the majority of what we do.
So our next question is, what is the biggest operational challenge the department has faced?
The biggest operational challenge now is growth. When I say growth, I mean additional fire stations. Right now, the city of Montgomery continues to grow, and right now the department is probably down 3 fire stations. And with those additional fire stations, we need additional manpower, we need additional apparatus. So the biggest thing right now is growth. Growth in our fire department is one of our biggest issues that we have to tackle. And like I said, with the manpower, trying to hire today has become an enormous task. So then you gotta look at hiring, and then you gotta look at retention. Right? How do we keep our senior employees from leaving, such as myself?
So how does technology and new equipment change as you operate today compared to your past?
So compared when I came in 1999, the technology has increased more. Everything is going more electronic. Right? So just imagine everything is going electronic, and then one of our sources that we put fire out is with water. So mix electricity and water and see how does that react, you know. So, but a lot of the apparatus today was more mechanical with just pull handles. But now everything is electronic with push buttons, right? Even when it comes down to on the medical side, when it comes out EKG monitors, we're able to communicate with the hospitals out on the scene, which when I first come into the department, you couldn't do that, right? Even when it comes to our equipment that we have, more of our equipment is compatible with what somebody may have at home already, and what the ambulance companies have, and what the hospital may have when we arrive at the hospital. So when it comes to that, more compatibility has been one big thing. Communication, as far as the new technology, has been another thing. And then on the fire service side of it is just the electronics. That's pretty much involved in everything. More of our apparatus is set up that way now.
So our next question is, what does training look like for someone who just graduated from the fire academy?
Graduated from the fire academy? So of course, you know, we got on average is a 22-week academy, but it all depends on what time of the year. But once they get out of the academy, which they go through a EMS training, they go through their fire suppression training, then they go to the fire stations and they have to do a 6-month probationary period. And what the individuals at the station do is they continue that training. And they get more involved and they get more hands-on at the fire station, because once they get out there, they actually answer those structure fires. They're actually making those medical calls, but they continue to train as if they were in a training academy. And once they get their 6-month probationary period completed, then we bring them down and we kind of present them with an award for being a permanent status employee with the fire department.
So our next question is, how do you keep your firefighters prepared for rare but dangerous situations?
Training. One of the biggest things we do and one of the things we believe in is always a 3-point philosophy when it comes to Montgomery Fire and Rescue. That's discipline, professionalism, and that's training. But training is one of the biggest things. You must constantly train. We set up everything where we train twice a day, 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. But it really doesn't stop there. You gotta have some of that initiative and learning too. But one of our biggest things is training.
So, how do you support the mental health and well-being of your fire department?
So right now, we enacted this maybe 7 years ago. We have a peer support group that we utilize. We got several individuals. I think right now we have a total of 8 that when incidents occur, they'll actually go talk to the personnel at the fire station, kind of see how they're doing, see what their mental well-being is, especially when you have a significant call, when somebody may die or is involving young kids. Some of that stuff bothers some of the guys, so we'll have them go around and talk to them. Plus, we have a fire department chaplain. He comes out to all structure fires and all major incidents, and he talks to some of the personnel, and he actually goes around to the fire stations to talk to some of the personnel.
So our next question is, what advice would you give a young person who wants to join the fire service?
Be ready to train, be ready to be part of a professional organization, Have some semblance of discipline about yourself, because we do demand that when you come here. But I can tell them that when they do come here, they'll be better equipped for the world outside the fire service, because we're gonna train them and we're gonna get them to where they need to be.
So, how does the fire department connect with the community outside of emergencies?
So we do a lot of public education, a lot of fire safety education. We have our fire prevention programs and our community risk reductions. Part of what we do is we attend a lot of events over the weekend as far as fire safety. We do tours at the fire stations. We go down, we do fire safety classes at different organizations. We actually teach CPR classes, which gets us out in the public. We actually do smoke detector installs. So we go around and we find neighborhoods that maybe we had a high volume of fires in for maybe the last 3 or 4 months. And we actually go install smoke detectors in homes that are maybe either the batteries there or they don't have smoke detectors at all. And that's one program that the department has set up.
So, what is the most important fire safety message you wish for families in Montgomery?
The most important is, like I just talked about, making sure you got a smoke detector. Early notification is the best thing. But then, like we always teach, get out and stay out.
So, how do you ensure that all neighborhoods in Montgomery get equal emergency services?
Through our coverage in the city, through data collection in our GIS program, we're able to identify where our units need to go. It even helped over the years as far as our fire station placement. And I know people may not know, but they're just not placed because somebody decided they wanted to place them there. They're strategically placed throughout the city in order to keep our coverage the same throughout the city of Montgomery. But we also have a future plan in place where we know fire stations need to be placed. So we got a 5-year plan right now, and that includes 3 additional fire stations, including 7 additional units throughout the city, which will keep our coverage even throughout the city of Montgomery.
So, how can local residents better support the fire station and fire department?
Just through the support we've been given. We've been blessed over the last 3 to 4 years since Mayor Reed been in office. We probably received around 37% increase in our salaries. That's one way that they show their support to us, is by making sure we're getting the increases in salary that a lot of us feel like we deserve, but also supporting us in the equipment. Over the last year, we bought 5 apparatus, right, which is coming from the tax dollars, and that's their support for the fire department. Not to mention, while out in the community, they're always telling us how much they appreciate what we do, and that's a big help too.
So, what are your top priorities for the fire department over the next 5 years?
Top priority is our manpower, making sure that we're hiring, making sure that we try to retain employees. Also, another priority is making sure our morale stays high within the department, because if we can keep our morale high, then we keep our public, the service that we provide to the public, at a high standard. Making sure we continue to train as we've always done, making sure we maintain our professionalism, making sure we represent the standard of excellence that we always try to put out there. And then making sure we maintain our discipline. And like I tell people, discipline does not always mean disciplinary action. Sometimes it means just corrective action.
So, how do you see climate change or extreme weather affecting the fire department?
So, a lot of times we have brush fires and things like that in our fire department, just not prevalent as you would be on the west side of the United States and down in our Florida areas. But we do have that, and climate change does affect that, and we have to be prepared for those things. We have 2 brush trucks strategically placed throughout the city of Montgomery that tackles those structure fires, meaning grass fires and brush fires in those areas. We do have a lot of rural areas in Montgomery that a lot of people don't know about, that we have to effectively manage on a day-to-day basis. And that's the biggest thing when climate change affects that in those areas such as that. But then climate change, on the other hand, depending on what time of year, it can affect structure fires because with climate change, when it gets colder early in the year, or it gets hotter, but when it gets colder, people like to set fires because they're trying to stay warm, which is explainable. But then sometimes they don't know how to control them, and that starts those structure fires. And then we have that increase. Most times it's between the month of October and January we have that increase in structure fires based off, whether or not it's getting colder earlier or hotter based off climate change.
So our next question is, what legacy do you hope to leave behind as Chief of Operations?
I hope that when they look back, they said that I maintained the standard of our performance out there when it comes to responding to the public. Since I've been here in 1999, we've always had a very good reputation. And I just want that reputation to be maintained while I'm Chief of Operations. We had one bad fire on May 14th, where we had a couple of guys actually receive some significant burns. Right? But outside of that, in my tenure, I've been Chief of Operations now a little over 7 years. That's the only fire that we've ever had that where there was a risk of actually losing anybody. My legacy, I hope, will be that I maintain that standard of operation and that I lose nobody while as Chief of Operations. And if I move up any higher, I hope that I maintain that standard even then, that I never lose anybody. But that's one of my biggest things.
So our next question is, what inspired you to become a firefighter in the first place?
All right, so the truth of that is I needed a job. I had a wife and kids to take care of. Right? But then when you get into the fire service and you realize the brotherhood that's in it, you realize the work that it takes to actually do it, you start loving what you do, right? And people always say it's never the same thing, and it's not. It's always something different. So it was always fun to come to work. It was always exciting to come to work. And then I tell a lot of younger guys, it's no longer just a job anymore. It's more of a profession, which steered me to get more educated and more training in what I do on a daily basis. But that's the thing for me is that it's the excitement of the job that drove me when I first got into the fire department. But it initially started because I needed a job, but it developed into something more.
So our next question is, who have the biggest influence on your career?
So I had several people. It would be hard for me to isolate one person. I believe in a philosophy that you take the good and you take the bad. So I learned some good things from people, but I learned some bad things from people. But if I had to just point out one individual, it would be a district chief that I worked for at one point. His name was Chad Strickland. Right? And he taught me to build a relationship with my personnel. At the time, I was a sergeant. And he taught me to build a relationship with my personnel and get to know them, actually have a conversation with them. And that right there followed me throughout my career as a lieutenant, as a captain, as a district chief, and even now as Chief of Operations. I believe that in order to be successful as a leader and to know your personnel, because you have to know their likes and their dislikes. And if you want to influence them, you got to get to know them. So build those relationships. So I would have to say Chad, Chief, he was a district chief at the time. I think he influenced me the most.
Thank you. So our next question is, what's the most memorable call that you have responded to?
All right, well, I go back to my first, I couldn't have been Chief Operations but a month. And it was a BTW scuba fire. All right, turned into a third alarm. And the water systems, we were having issues with water source, right? And we were trying to find a water source throughout the downtown area, which it was difficult at the time. But then I knew what that school meant. I knew what that school represented. And to see it and to know that it was burning down was a difficult thing, you know what I mean? But, like I said, a month in as Chief of Operations, and you got a third alarm fire going on down there. That was probably my most significant incident that I remember, and probably kind of geared my career as chief of operations.
Thank you. I would like to add, I am a student at BTW currently.
The new BTW.
The new BTW.
Right.
I do love my school. So our next question is, how do you balance the demands of your job with your personal life and family?
I mean, it's pretty good. I started in this career, I had to be the age of 26. And like I said, I already had one daughter. So right now, with the demand I have as chief of operations, it takes a lot of time past that 7:30 to 4:30 time frame. But I think my wife and my kids, they understand my desire for my career. They understand where I'm trying to go and what I'm doing. So if they understand, I don't really have the normal issues that some people may have by trying to juggle that. And not to mention my daughters are past college age. So, they kind of living their own life, so that demand with the kids is not there like it used to be when I was younger in my career. But like I said, my wife, she understands. She knows what I'm trying to do. She knows where I'm trying to get to. She understands what the fire department means to me and what I do. So she understands, the demand. And that not all the time do she probably get all the time she deserves, but she understands my motivation.
Thank you. Our next question is, outside of firefighting, what are your hobbies or activities that you like to do?
Oh, so one of my biggest things, I like to work out, exercise. Which, that's common across Montgomery Fire. I do like to ride motorcycles. That is one of my favorite things to do. But I'm big in sports too. I like to play basketball.
So our last question is, looking back, what advice would you give your younger self when you started out in the fire service?
In all honesty, I probably wouldn't change a whole lot. I think I did pretty good in my career. I made chief operations with 18 years in, which was the first time somebody had ever done that. I probably wouldn't change a whole lot. I think I did pretty good coming up. I think I am well respected throughout this department, no matter who it is. I probably wouldn't change a whole lot.
Well, those are all the questions we have. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I appreciate you asking me to do this.
Thank you.
I see a big future for you going forward. I really do.
Thank you. Well, guys, thank you, Chief Gauntt, for your time. Love to do this again with you. But that's all we have now. I'll see you on the next episode of Let's Talk with Khris.